My name is Judd Lander. I suppose I'm known as the godfather of the music business. I've been in it so long. Having been a director at Epic Records, London Records, Warner Brother, I've done the rounds with regard to the major labels as a PR exec. The Ramones, again, were a classic act. Very, very Joey Ramone, very funny. I remember taking them to a posh restaurant, and of course, the Metro D was a little bit concerned because they were all very goth-looking, and I had a chuckle because where I'd booked a seat in the middle of the restaurant, he took us away in the corner because of the state of the guys. And then when we saw them in concert, they were again 1 minute songs, amazing, amazing live. So lucky to work with them. I came into this business as a young kid from Liverpool when it was all happening in the sort of mid to late 60s. And it was a journey that, I've enjoyed and I'm still sort of involved in, and it's still on. Liverpool holds fond memories, and I still pop up there and still play with my band, who are now very old, the veterans of the business. But, it's the drug, it's that bug that once you get involved in music, you can't shake it off, regardless of how young or how old you are. It's a buzz you get and something you want to excel to. This is one which brings back fond memories, the Communards. I was working again at London Records. London Records was a powerful label. Roger Raines was the big boss there. Tracy Bennett, the A&R, and Pete Tong was doing A&R, and myself. And it was like a small ship. We were running away there, Colin Bell. But one artist we worked with are the artist I'm looking at now. It's the Communards, who were originally Bronski Beat. But the Communards, little Jimmy had gone on. I ended up playing on this track in '85, their album Forbidden Fruit. The business has changed dramatically over the years, some for the better and some not necessarily so. I'm a champion of trying to promote young artists and give young artists a shot at getting their foot on the media sort of ladder. And it's nowadays it's tough because there are so many assets that you need to sort of bring on board when you're promoting an artist. And that's what we do. In the old days, the traditional days, you'd hire a national radio PR, you'd hire a regional radio PR, you'd hire a press person. So you'd end up with 4 or 5 different agencies all trying to promote your work. I've now condensed all that into one, because it just makes sense. It's logical. If one of my guys in the office pulls off a major read, an online journal, we can shout it out straight away and react, letting radio and letting TV know of the activity. And so it's a win-win. Culture Club, they went on to sell 300,000. That's when I got, that was in '83, Coloured by Numbers album, which went on to sell, again, millions and millions. And of course, Karma Chameleon, I played on Church of the Poison Mind as well as Karma Chameleon. But Karma was the one that went wild throughout the States, all around the world. I think every country, it sort of hit the number 1 slot. So fond memories, and memories of us performing at Wembley. They'd done a sellout week at Wembley, and I'd come on and play with them live, and that was the buzz. They sold out. I think it was one of the records for selling out a week or two at Wembley. They're fantastic times. And that session was bizarre because I just popped in. I was at Motown at the time, working with Motown Records, and I zoomed over at lunchtime to do a session with Culture Club, and it was a quick in, lay the track down. Steve Levine was producing, do the track, and then I'd zoom back to the office to do my proper job. So that's where my session, I was still in demand for session work, but I had the industry job as well, which is head of PR or running the label, whatever. So it was. I was multitasking at the time, and it was a great period, very fun. The major labels obviously are very fussy, and the and R men, well, A&R men, but I call them and R because quite often they can't make a decision. They will just watch on the fringes as an artist is rising. Young artist gets a little bit of activity on radio, a little bit of activity on TV, and it builds and builds and builds. And that's where the A&R man will come along and say, they're now almost happening, we'll take them on. But by that time, I always say to the artists I work with, well, if you got to that stage on your own, why not carry on and then just lease your tracks to the major label rather than sign up? Then you're giving them a window of 5 years if you come to an agreement where they've got to exploit you. They're in it for the money, so they'll go head on tongue, and you benefit at the end of the day. A lot of other artists are maybe like that association of being signed direct to a label, but you always have to be wary. They're the areas where you do need some legal advice, and that's where I would suggest to any artist to seek some independent legal advice as well. This is where I get all the guys. We have a sit down and work out our campaigns, but it also gives me an excuse to stick all our sort of discs and everything on the wall, just to remind me of some amazing times. One especially was when I worked with Meatloaf. He was an incredible character, and Jim Steinman, a total eccentric, but what a writer. And I ended up getting freedom to the city of Cleveland as a thank you for my breaking them in the UK via radio and via TV. And I remember video was coming into its own at the time, and Epic and Cleveland Records had filmed Meatloaf on a motorbike, but the video, the promotion video, was over 8 minutes, just over 8 minutes long, and no way would you get TV to give 8 minutes over to video. Top of the Pops wouldn't. However, I did manage to blag the old grey whistle test into taking a punt and showing the video in its entirety. They did that, and it blew the album off. When I started off in the business, it was the heyday of the 60s music scene, and everyone in Liverpool wanted to be in a band. So I wanted to be part of that dynasty because I'd worked as a stonemason's assistant, Stonemasonry Northwestern Limited, and I worked on what we call Paddy's Wigwam, which is the Catholic cathedral in Liverpool. And I remember my farewell gesture before I go involved with the band of chiselling my name on one of the beautiful crosses, which are one of the features there. So every time I drive into Liverpool with my daughters, I'll say, Dad's name's behind that brick on the left. Liverpool was a hive of activity. The Beatles had just left. The Mersey Beats were happening. Jerry and the Pacemakers. It was a hive of A&R men coming in and out, in and out, in and out. So it was a hive of activity. I decided then I wanted to join a band. So I put an ad in the local Frank Hesse's music shop, and I put an ad in there saying saxophonist. I'd bought an old sax, which I couldn't play, but I put an ad in prematurely saying saxophonist looking for a gig. So I get this band coming round knocking on my door, and they said, "Oh, you want to join a band? We're looking for a sax player." So I go and audition with them. I was terrible. It was embarrassing. And the band were all killing themselves laughing. In the end, they said, "Is there anything else you can play?" I said, "Well, I do a bit of harmonica." So I ended up playing a bit of a harmonica, and it was that got me the gig. So I ended up joining them, and we started doing blues music. And off we went. We went on a journey. We ended up being signed up by the Cavern Agency as the new Young Hope. We got placed all over the place, touring the UK, you know, the hideaways from the Cavern, famous Cavern Club. Bob Wooler was our mentor. Bob was the famous DJ at the Cavern, an amazing character, and should have been a lot bigger than what he ended up being. I mean, he was a great orator. But the buzz in Liverpool at the time, it was like the adrenaline rush. You get on stage. It was just a fantastic journey, and one that's still sort of, you know, is shared today by kids going on gigs and new bands performing on gigs. Yeah, it was an interesting journey. We ended up playing over, I think it was about 500 times at the Cavern Club. We hold the world record for playing that, and we still play today at the Cavern Club for charity. We do a charity gig called Liverpool Rocks every year. It sort of triggered off, you know, self-confidence within me, where, you know, I was playing with the band, but I was interested in, you know, what was happening in the London scene.